We are now looking at the www and HTTP in our data communication and networking. www is World Wide Web and HTTP is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So this is a protocol. While we are going to see what www means and why these are important in our data communication. Of course, as far as internet is concerned, these two are vital. www today is a distributed client-server service. World Wide Web, it is a service which is a distributed client-server service. In this, a client using a browser, and this browser can be your Internet Explorer, it can be your Opera, it can be it can be your Firefox. So client is a browser, and this can access a service using a server. But the service provided is distributed over many locations. We call them as sites. So we'll see the client, that is the browser. As I said, it can be IE, it can be Opera, it can be say Firefox, it can be there are so many. So client, server, URL, uniform resource locator, and what are cookies. This is a simple architecture of World Wide Web. So when a client sends a request to a site, say A, site A will send the web page to the client. In this similar fashion, client may request some other content from site B, and World Wide Web makes it possible and enables this kind of communication between a client and say a server to request and view and to process these say web page on the browser. So client has a simple program. It is a simple program, and we call it as a browser. So now you might have realized what is the power and what is the importance of your web browser is there in the internet, on the internet, because your browser is the only client. Okay. Now this is as having said that it is your client, there are various services also, where some other client may request to the sites, and we're going to see that. So this browser in this browser, if I say that for the input you use keyboard or mouse, and you can use any other input also, like say a pen digitizer, a joystick, etc., or even you can input it with your hand gestures. So whichever way you input, there is an output. But what is going inside a browser? This is a browser. You can see, you can view, you can feel your hardware parts, and you can also view what this browser has to offer you. But this browser is a controller. Is a controller which have HTML, say JavaScript, and Java inside it. HTML is hypertext markup language. It is used for or employed for making your static web pages. JavaScript is a object-based web programming language. Now you can make functions using JavaScript, and this is a client-side object-based scripting language. And then you have high-level languages like Java. And browser has interpreter. Browser can interpret HTML, JavaScript, Java, etc. And it also controls the HTTP, the FTP, the Telnet, the SMTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, File Transfer Protocol, Telnet, and SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Right? So the URL, how you are going to address something, how you are going to ask for something. If you want to send an address, send a letter to somebody, you have to write an address. And now it is important to mention the mobile number also, because courier company may call you where you are, where you want to deliver the package. For that address in the internet, the address is like this. The address is known by URL, uniform resource locator. For this, you can have a protocol like HTTP or HTTPS. S is for secure. and then you have followed by the colon and double slash backslash. You have a host, and then with colon you have a port and then path. And you'll not see numbers here. You'll see like www.google.com. Okay, so it's a name. It's a English like representation of some numbers, which are the ports and the host. So the web documents, the documents in the www or World Wide Web, can be grouped into three categories. It can be static, it can be dynamic, it can be active. And the category which we have made is entirely based on the time at which the contents of the documents are determined. So we'll see the static, dynamic, and active documents. This is a static document. As I said, HTML is employed for hypertext markup language is used to make a static page. But I may be contradicting myself, because now today we have HTML5. You can have dynamic pages with HTML5. It has multimedia, it has all the plugins. You can have a canvas. So there are so many things which are being added to HTML5 along with CSS3, cascading style sheet 3. So pertaining or limiting ourselves to the static document, just saying that HTML creates the static document. So what are the text? The HTML stands for hypertext markup language. So what are the markups there? Hypertext markup. So we have tags, tag-based language. HTML is a tag-based language. This is just an example that if you want to make a text bold, what you're going to do? You're going to use B in between your angle brackets, and you have to terminate it by a backslash. This is the effect of bold face tags you have just seen. So the text will be bolded. So if your browser reads this, it understands that whenever it wants to, it would like to display it or interprets it. Whenever this web page is being showed in the browser, this text needs to be in the bold. This is again the beginning and the ending tags. How are you going to do it? You have to say the tag name as we have just seen, the B, and the attribute value, the attribute values, and what all these allow, and you have to end it by the similar tag name as we have seen, B with a backslash. And I'm just giving you an example because this is not a class of HTML, so I'm not going into the detail. But every tag will be like this only, like a body tag, like a HTML tag itself. HTML, the document will start with HTML. Well, the document will start with doc type, but the actual document will start with HTML, followed by, in the end, you have to have HTML with end, and you can have some header and the body. All these you can have inside HTML. This is the dynamic document using the CGI, and you also have Perl. CGI is for making the document dynamic, right? So you can make a HTML document using CGI, and this is the dynamic document using your server-side script. What is server-side script? The script, or you have seen, I've just told you JavaScript, so that is a client-side script. But if you want to run something on your server, you need to have a server-side script. Like here you have PHP, like you have ASP, active server pages, and many other technologies are there. Internet technologies are there. So you send a request, this run the script inside the HTML document on the server, and you'll get the dynamic HTML document. So dynamic documents are sometimes referred to as server-side dynamic documents. And active document, you can also have an active document using, say, high-level programming languages. Java applet. Applet means the small application. Applet. Java application. Small application is Java applet. Now again, you can send the request, and through Java applet, you can run the applet to get the result. What about the active document using client-side script? Now, I indicated earlier, you will reuse the JavaScript to get the result. Now, you also have various technologies like Ajax and jQuery, which is the more say, elegant form of JavaScript. So, active documents are sometimes referred to as the client-side dynamic documents. Now, we come to the HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Now, you know what protocol is by now. So, it is a protocol used mainly to access the data on www, World Wide Web. So, HTTP functions as a combination of two protocols, File Transfer Protocol and Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. So see the HTTP transaction and the persistent versus non-persistent connections. HTTP uses the service of TCP on well-known port 80. HTTP uses the service of Transmission Control Protocol on the port 80. Okay. So HTTP transaction is again very simple. You send a request, you get the response. This is what HTTP does. But the request and response messages are like this. You have a request line, you have headers, blank line, body is present only in some messages. These are the request and response messages which you can send through HTTP. And these are the request and status lines, request type, status lines. You have various spaces here, HTTP version, like what is the HTTP version. So all these are the content of your HTTP. And of course, this get and post, very important. These are the methods. Apart from the body HTTP, we have the methods. Like get, you are requesting a document from the server. Post, you are sending some information from the client to the server. So get and post are very important. Then head, request information about a document, but not the document itself. Put, you send a document from the server to the client. So put is for this trace, it echoes the incoming request. Connect, reserved, it is a reserved one. And then option, it requires about available options. Like in DOS, you do it by a question mark. These are the status codes of HTTP. These are the phrases, the codes with these phrases, and the information. This is the information description. So what it is. See, for continue, you have a code 100. The initial part of the request has been received and the client may continue with its request. So according to these numbers or codes only, things are going to work. 101 for switching. The server is complying with the client request to switch protocols defined in the upgrade header. So this is how it goes. First 100, continue switching. Then the request is successful. Then a new URL is created. Accepted means the request is accepted, but it is not immediately acted upon. No content. There is no content in the body. All these are status showing codes. There are various status codes, and I hope that you must have seen this 404 on your browser. That is, the document is not found, 404 error. So all these error you can easily see in your browser. If service is available, you will see that this is the code which says the service is temporarily available and may be requested in the future. All these are available to you, and this is what HTTP does. And header format is simple. You have header name along with the space, a certain header value. These are the general headers. Cache control, it specifies information about caching, the connection, the date, the MIME version, that is the multimedia, and upgrade. These are all the content of your request header. These are the response header. You have various response header and all the descriptions here. These are the header and the description. So I would really encourage you to learn them so that you can understand what they does. Now we have an example. It retrieves a document. We get the get method to retrieve an image. This is the path, user pin image 1. So the request line shows the method get. First, let us see the figure first. So this is an example. Now the example is like this. A client is there. Of course, you know what client contains in this www and HTTP area. It is a browser for you. It requests the get method. So get this image, HTTP 1.1, accept image GIF, accept image JPEG. So it says that you can accept GIF also, JPEG also. Server responds with HTTP 1.1 with all these information. So now let us go back to the question. For example, so the request line shows the method get, the URL, and the HTTP version, that is 1.1. Now the header has two lines that show that the client can accept either the GIF format or JPEG format. The request does not have a body. The response message contains the status lines, the 4 lines of header. The header lines defines the date, server, the MIME version, and the length of the document. So this is what it is. Get, this is the path, HTTP 1.1 version, accept these kind of images. Now the response would be HTTP, this is 200. Okay. Date of sending, time, server is say Challenger, MIME version is 1.0, content length is 2048. Now we have one more example. First, let us see what is going on. This is, now we are using not get but the post method. We have used get in the previous example. Now we'll use post. So this is post. All other things are slightly changed, and this is the request and this is the response. Now let us read the example first. The client wants to send data to the server, and now we use the post method. The request line shows the method which is post, and then URL and the HTTP version. So there are 4 line of headers. The request body contains the input information. The response message contains the status line and 4 line of headers. The created document, which is the CGI document, is included in the body. This is the client server requesting through post method. So we can have get and post method. Post, this is the URL, this is the HTTP version, except any of these. Content length is 50. Server responds with this content. Again, everything which we discussed in the previous example. So HTTP uses ASCII character. ASCII character, you know about ASCII now. American Standard Code for Information Interchange. So HTTP uses ASCII characters. A client can directly connect to a server. Client can directly connect to the server using telnet, which logs into the port 80. We'll see the next one. So the next 3 lines shows that the connection is successful. We then type 3 lines. The first shows the request line, that is we are using get method here. The second is the header, and the third is the blank, and terminating the request. So the server response is 7 lines, starting with the status line. So the blank line at the end terminates the server response. The file this much lines is received after the blank line, and the last line is the output by the client. This is how we are connecting through telnet. Okay. This is through telnet. Client can directly connect to a server using telnet, which logs into port 80. And next 3 lines shows the connection is successful. That means it is trying for this IP. This is an IP address. It is connected to this URL www.mhe.com, and this is escape character say. And then we have the first shows the request line. This is the request line. We then type 3 lines. What are these lines? All these lines, you know. So in this, what is happening? The next 3 lines we have seen that the connection is successful. So connection is say successful here. And how we got it? Because if connection is not successful, it will give certain error. Then we type 3 lines. That is the first shows the request line, get method. This is the get method request line. The next is the header. The second is the header. This is the header. And then again the line is blank here, which is termination of the request. Then the server response is 7 lines, starting with the status line. So these are 7 lines, various lines, and blank line at the end terminates the server response. So the file of say this much of lines is received after the blank line. The last line is the output of the client. So this is the response by the server. So you can directly, the whole story is, if in one line I have to explain, you can directly connect through a telnet, through a port. So HTTP version 1.1 specifies a persistent connection by default. This was a basic idea about WW and HTTP in data communication and networking. Thank you so much. Take care.